Hello everyone and welcome back to Beatley Tones Beatles channel. Lovely to have you here. Thanks for joining me for this video. Hope you're all doing well. In today's video we're going to be doing a full review of this beauty, George Harrison's Living in the Material World Super Deluxe box set. So we're going to be talking about the remix of this album done by Paul Hicks. I'll be talking about some of the tracks individually. Also be talking about all of the outtakes and demos that were included on LP2 or CD2 in this set. Also be talking about the package in general, the various packages in general, and also be talking about some of the gripes about this box set. Now, in the 3 years that I've been doing YouTube videos and all the releases that have come out during that time, I would say there have been less significant gripes about this box set than any other that have come out during this period. You know what we're like, we're Beatles fans. Don't matter how well we're treated with remixes and box sets and all that sort of thing, we've always got something negative to say, but as I say, I think there's been less about this than any of the others, unless you're talking about the delivery performance of GeorgeHarrison.com or in some cases Amazon. You know, some people getting their box sets, 3, 4, 5 days late. Some may not even have had it yet. But you told me about your gripes in the comments of my unboxing video that I did a few days ago, so we'll be addressing some of those. What I'm not going to do in this video is talk about the actual merits of Living in the Material World as an album, because I've already done that. A couple of years ago I did a deep dive review on the album where I talked about every track on the album, gave every track a score out of 10, and if you want to go and watch that, there will be an end card at the end of this video that you can just click on and go and watch it if you like. But Living in the Material World, generally has always been an album that I've really liked. When I did my George Harrison studio albums ranking video, I ranked it at number 7 out of 12, and that is not so much a reflection on this album, but more a reflection on the albums that were above it that I like slightly more. But now, having heard this remix, I think that has changed. That has changed. If I was to do a ranking video tomorrow, Living in the Material World may have moved up a couple of notches. The remix done by Paul Hicks, I think, is superb, and I knew it would be. I knew it would be because, Paul Hicks's record has been impeccable so far. He did a marvellous job with All Things Must Pass, really breathed new life into that album. And he's the John Lennon Ultimate Mixes that have done have all been fantastic. He's delivered on all of those albums, so I had high expectations for the remix of Living in the Material World, and he did not disappoint. Just talk about the remix generally. I mean, this is my original album that I bought in the 70s, back 1977, of the original album, and this is not an album that I've ever thought the production was rubbish on it. I've heard a lot of reviewers say that the original was muddy. I don't think it was that muddy, really. I don't really agree with that. I think the production on this album was pretty good, but when you get a remix of this album and then you compare the two, and I'll talk about how I compared them in a minute, but when you compare one against the other, you can really hear the improvements that Paul Hicks has made with the sound of this album. It really is superb. Talking generally rather than talking about individual tracks, because I don't want to keep repeating myself as I go through each track. But as a general thing, you will find that the soundstage is much wider and much fuller. It sounds more full for sure. There is better instrument separation. George's voice is to the fore, as you would expect. When he did that on All Things Must Pass, it really did breathe new life into the album. But we heard all the little vulnerabilities in George's voice, and that is okay. That is okay. And we hear that sometimes on this album as well, because George's voice is more to the fore. I don't think it was buried before. It was perfectly audible before, but it is more to the fore now. And we do hear a few vulnerabilities, but generally George's singing on this album is brilliant. He's a much better singer, I think, than he's given credit for, and you really do hear it on this album. Now, as I'm a drummer, I'm always interested in the drum sounds on these remixes, and I don't know what Paul Hicks has done, but the drums sound absolutely fantastic on this album, where they didn't sound so good on the original album. The kick drum, which is a really important part of the groove, because generally in a 4 beat to the bar, a song that's in 4/4 time, you'd hear the kick drum on beats 1 and 3. So it's an important part of the groove to be able to hear that kick drum, and you really do hear it now, and you hear it with much more punch. And I know this sounds stupid, but the snare, it just sounds more snary. It just sounds more snary and sharp. The percussion, you can hear, you can hear everything that is going on really clearly. When Jim Count or Ringo using the hi-hat or on the cymbal, really great. And all the toms, you can hear the definition between the sound of the toms. The toms that are smaller give off a higher note, the ones that are bigger give off a lower note, and you can kind of hear that when he does his fills and stuff like that. The bass is a little bit higher in the mix. Klaus Voormann is a very economical bass player, so you don't hear crazy bass playing or athletic bass playing like, say, you did from, say, Gordon Edwards on the Mind Games remix. But it's good to hear Klaus's bass parts. And also, the other star of this show is Nicky Hopkins' piano. It really does sparkle on this album during this remix. I mean, it was great before, but even more so now. So that is what I think of the remix generally, and let's talk about some of the tracks individually. I know this is stating the obvious, but the benefit that you're going to get from this remix very much depends on what you listen to it on. If you listen to it on your phone or in your car, you're not going to get the same benefits from this remix as you are if you listen to it on your hi-fi, because phone and car, just can't process the information in the same way that your hi-fi can. So how did I listen to this? How did I do my comparison? Well, I listened to this album in lots of different formats, and I listened to it quite a few times. I've heard the album now at least 6 times all the way through. The LPs, I listened to the LPs, I thought they were superb, sounded really, really good. I didn't compare the LP against the LP that I just showed you, my old copy from 1977, because it is so battered and bruised now, and it's full of cracks and pops and stuff, so I can't really listen to it without bias. But I did listen to my 2017 reissue of the album, which is remastered from the analog tape, so I did listen to it against that. But it's impossible to do an A and B comparison using LPs, because you have to keep changing the record. You can listen to a track on the remix and then take it off and then put on the 2017 version, and you've already forgotten what you've just heard on the 2024 remix. So it's impossible to do really with LPs. I did listen to the CDs as well that are included in this box set, and they are superb, excellent sounding. They really blew me away, actually. I wasn't expecting them to sound as good as they did, and they really did sound fantastic. So if you bought the 2 CD version or even the 1 CD version, you're not going to be disappointed. They are excellent. But I also listened to high-res audio files on the streaming service that I use, which is Quobuzz, who had 2 versions of the album on there. They had obviously the 2024 remix, and they also had the 2006 remaster on there as well. And that is what I decided to do my comparison against, because it's much easier working with files that you can stop and start and stop and start. You can listen to a minute of one version of a track and then listen to the same minute on another version of the track. It's much easier to to compare and to remember what you've just heard. So that is what I used, and the high-res audio sounds brilliant. I played that through my Name streamer, which is a fairly high-end streamer, and sounded really good. So that is what I used to do the comparison. And when you do that, when you kind of listen to like the first minute of a song and then compare it against the old version, the first minute of the same song, the thing that strikes you straight away is how full the sound is on this new version, and the instrument separation, how everything is so much clearer. It's like a blanket has been lifted, and it's a blanket that I didn't even realise existed, because like I said, I always thought that Living in the Material World was a decent sounding album, but the blanket has been lifted, I think, with this version. You know the blanket I mean, don't you? It's kind of it's a tartan one that old people wear on their knees when they're watching TV. But that is what I felt. I felt as if a blanket had been lifted from it, and the clarity just really came through. The opening track, "Give Me Love, Give Me Peace on Earth," you can hear Jim Keltner's kick drum on that, right from the off, really sort of coming through loud and clear, and giving that sort of that thumping quality that a kick drum does. Also, you can almost hear the plectrum on George's acoustic guitar. This is a much easier album probably to remix than, say, All Things Must Pass, where you had 15 musicians on one track, 3 guitarists, and God knows, backing singers and all the rest of it. There's no backing singers on this apart from George. George is the only guitarist on this album. Klaus Voormann plays bass, Nicky Hopkins is on piano, Gary Wright is on various keyboard instruments, and Jim Keltner is the drummer throughout the album, with Ringo adding drums to 3 of the tracks, and that is the core band for this. So we can see why you can get that that real clarity in the sound. So Give Me Love, Give Me Peace on Earth, that was the things that I noticed in that. My main takeaway from Sue Me, Sue You Blues, which is another track that I really like on this album, about 3 minutes 12 into the song, there's some great interplay between George's slide guitar and Gary Wright's electric piano. They're kind of dueling with each other, and it's always been there, but before it was a little bit buried in the mix, but it's much more clearly defined in this remix, thanks to the instrument separation, and that for me makes it an even more enjoyable song. The next track, The Light That Has Lighted the World, started life as being written for a B-side of a Cilla Black single, I'll Still Love You, which was also written by George. In fact, the song I'll Still Love You was given to Ringo, and he covered it on his Ringo's Roto Couture album. Don't tell anyone, but I think Cilla Black's version is better. But Light Has Lighted the World is my favourite track on the album. Imagine if it had just stayed as a B-side of a Cilla Black single. What a waste of an absolutely brilliant song. Now, in this song, we do hear some vulnerability in George's voice, but it's an emotional song, so we want to hear that vulnerability. It adds something to the song for me. But one of the main things about this song is the acoustic guitar played by George. underneath Nicky Hopkins' piano solo. Nicky Hopkins' piano on this song absolutely sparkles throughout this song, but the acoustic guitar that George plays underneath that solo and the acoustic guitar that he plays underneath his own electric guitar solo are a little bit lost, I think, in the original version of the album, but they shine. They come through very vibrant on this version, which is improves the song for me. I also really like the double tracked vocal on George's voice at the end of the last verse, which I hadn't actually noticed before. So the next song is Don't Let Me Wait Too Long. It should have been a hit single. Very, very poppy, probably the most poppy song on the album, and I think if it had been released as a single, it would have been a hit. It's a kind of an acoustic guitar led song, and the first thing that you really notice about this song is how vibrant the acoustic guitar sounds in. It sounds much brighter than it did on the original. Also Jim Keltner's drums on this as well. The kick drum is coming through loud and clear, where I felt it was a little bit muffled on the original version. And also the snare, when I was talking about the snare sounding more snary, this song is a great example of that. Now, one thing about this whole remix that Paul Hicks has done, I don't think there's like a whole host of things that we've never heard before that have suddenly been revealed by this remix, like we've seen on other remixes he's done, particularly Mind Games. But there is one thing on this track that I hadn't really noticed before, and I don't know how I hadn't noticed it before, because it's there. It's just not as clear as it is now, and that is the percussion that Jim Keltner plays on this song. He's kind of doing a galloping beat on the steel rim of his snare. If you don't know what I mean, I'll demonstrate on the desk. It kind of goes a bit similar to what Ringo plays on the song Get Back, but I hadn't really noticed that before, and it's really weird because it is there, but I hadn't noticed. But going back to Paul Hicks's remixes, on other remixes that he's done for John Lennon, he's taken things out, like the sax on One Day at a Time. I haven't noticed anything on this whole album that he has taken away. But anyway, that's Don't Let Me Wait Too Long. Maybe that's a song that we as fans should adopt as our theme tune, especially when addressing GeorgeHarrison.com about deliveries. So the next track, Who Can See It, an absolutely beautiful ballad, one of my favourite songs on the album. And you only have to compare the beginning of this song to the beginning of the song on the original version to hear the improvement that has been made in the sound of Nicky Hopkins' piano. The piano intro just sounds absolutely gorgeous. It really does sparkle on this song. Klaus Voormann's bass, he doesn't play anything, wildly spectacular, but he seems to play the right thing for this particular song, and his bass is coming through loud and clear and sounds really nice. This is also the first song on the album that we hear John Barnum's string arrangements. The strings kind of swell and build up as the song builds up, going through it. And George's vocals again on this song, which is an emotional song, again sound a little bit vulnerable, but we want to hear that emotion in the song. It is an emotional song, song that I really enjoy, and it sounds great on this remix. So my thoughts on the remix of the title track, Living in the Material World, is that when it comes in right at the beginning, the intro just seems much more powerful than it was previously. I think due to the better instrument separation, because you can hear Gary Wright's keyboards really sort of cut through, as does Klaus Voormann's like throbbing bass line, and the drums, that galloping drum beat played dually by Ringo and Jim Keltner sounds much sharper, and I think that's those three elements together kind of give it a real lift, that intro. The spiritual sky bits that come in a couple of times during the song again benefits from the instrument separation, because it allows more space, I think, for Gary Wright's keyboard, and the tabla playing really sort of shines during that bit. And the bit in the middle where you've got Jim Horn's sax solo dueling with George's slide guitar solo, that sounds really nice. It's just joyful to be able to hear both elements equally in such clarity. So quite a bit of improvement, I think, on the title track. I haven't got too much to say about The Lord Loves the One Who Loves the Lord that opens side 2 of the album, but I do notice a much improved sound on the drums, both the tom-toms and the percussion parts of the drum kit, hi-hat, cymbals, particularly the cymbal work that Jim Keltner does towards the end of the song over the guitar solo. Gary Wright not on this track. One thing that I really like about the book, apart from the absolutely glorious photos that are in it, is it tells you exactly who plays what on every song, which we've never really known before. We don't get that sort of information on the original album credits. Be Here Now, the next track, has always been really gorgeous, but this is a song that has really gone up in my estimation. I think when I did my review of Living in the Material World, I think I might have given it 6.5 out of 10, or maybe 7 out of 10. This is definitely a 9 for me now. It's always, as I say, it's always been gorgeous. The acoustic guitar in it is gorgeous. There's no drums in this, so there's no Jim Keltner on this track, and the sort of the droning sound that you kind of hear all the way through the song, I always thought that was a sitar, but it's actually Gary Wright's keyboards. I really like the way that Nicky Hopkins' piano, it just twinkles in little parts of the song. He's not playing throughout the song, but there's little flourishes of piano just here and there, and it just really sounds lovely. And George's double-tracked voice in parts of the song also sound really nice as well. So the next track, Try Some, Buy Some, has got a very different sound to the rest of this album, and the reason for that is that this track was co-produced by Phil Spector. And originally recorded, the backing track that we hear on this album was originally recorded in 1971. The song written by George, but written for Ronnie Spector. And so we've got Phil Spector co-producing it with George, and a different lineup of musicians, although some of them are the same. We've got George on vocals and guitar. We've got Klaus Voormann on bass, Gary Wright on keyboards, but we've also got Leon Russell on piano, Pete Ham from Badfinger on acoustic guitar, and we've got Jim Gordon on drums. Jim Gordon, who drummed on All Things Must Pass, and also was the drummer in Derek and the Dominoes. But what we also find out from this recording notes book that was included. This book is brilliant, and I'll talk about this later in the video in more detail. But this is a really welcome inclusion to the box set, because there's some fantastic information in this about the recording of the album. But what we learn on this is that Phil Spector was actually present on at least one day, day one of the recording sessions, the day that they started recording The Lord Loves the One That Loves the Lord. Phil Spector was there. Now, it's not clear from the recording notes whether he was there as, in a producer capacity, or he just happened to be in London and at the Apple Studios that particular day. He's never been credited as a producer on this album other than co-producing Try Some, Buy Some. But so it was recorded originally in 1971, and then later that year, it was transferred to a different tape to preserve it. So by the time that George got the backing tapes to do his overdubbed vocal on, it was now like a third generation tape. So it sounds very different, you know, from the rest of the album. Sounds very sort of huge and All Things Must Pass-esque, as you would expect from Phil Spector production. But so for me, the remix of this track is not totally satisfying, but it does make some improvements in some areas, because for most of the song, George's vocal is, you know, up front, where on the old version of the album it was kind of buried in the mix, you know, as it was on All Things Must Pass, but here it's up front for most of you know, most of the song. The Klaus Voormann's bass sounds fantastic, and the sound on Jim Gordon's drums, brilliant. The kick drum and the fills that he does, you know, sound fantastic, whereas they sounded a little bit dead on the original version. But where I have a problem with this remix is with John Barham's string arrangement, because, you know, at the beginning of the song, everything is fine, everything sounds great. George's vocals are up front, you can hear him really well. But as the song progresses, the string arrangement kicks in, and it builds and it builds and it builds during the song, and as we get towards the, you know, end of the song, George's vocals are less and less to the front, and the strings kind of take over a little bit for me. So, you know, it's not a perfect remix. As I say, there are some improvements, but I would have just liked the strings to be toned down a little bit more during this song. So the penultimate track, The Day the World Gets Round, a song with a really good message, a song that was written the day after the concert for Bangladesh, is the epitome of what I said right at the beginning when I first started talking about this remix, about this blanket being lifted. It's very, very evident on this song. If you listen to the 2024 remix of this song and the 2006 remastered mix of this song, it becomes very, very evident that this blanket has been lifted. There's some lovely, you know, parts in this. We've got some extra musicians. We've got Ringo on drums as well as Jim Keltner, although it doesn't really sound like there's two drummers on it, and it seems like quite a strange decision that there's two drummers on this, because it doesn't feel like that sort of song that needs two drummers, but two drummers there are. We also have Pete Ham and Joey Molan from Badfinger on acoustic guitar on this. Now, the bit in the middle where George sings, you know, if you're the destructive kind, you can really, that really ramps up during that part, and the light and shade is very obvious, much more so than it is on the, you know, the 2006 remaster. And just to balance what I said on the previous track, the string arrangement on The Day the World Gets Round is absolutely gorgeous. Now the final track, That Is All, brilliant way to end the album. Just an absolutely gorgeous track, and George's double tracked vocal in the middle eight is, you know, it's really powerful. Kind of puts you know, the hairs at the back of your neck standing up. The drums sound lovely on this as well, especially the you know, the cymbals, little tinkles on the cymbals here and there sort of come through much clearer. Some lovely piano on this song as well, so it's a great remix for That Is All. And that is all really that I can say about this remix. I think, you know, on the whole, it's a brilliant remix. Great job by Paul Hicks on this. Very happy with it, and I think it has really breathed new life into to this album. So now let's talk about the outtakes and demos. So on the outtakes LP or CD, we get one outtake for each of the songs on the album. So that accounts for 11 of the tracks. We also get a 2024 remix of Miss Odell, and in the box set we got this 7-inch single, Sunshine Life for Me, Sail Away Raymond, which is George's vocal on the song that he wrote for Ringo, for the Ringo album. This comes from the 1973 sessions for the Ringo album, with George singing. He's got the band backing him, which also includes Klaus Voormann on bass and Ringo on drums. That track is obviously on the 7-inch single. It's also on the CD that is in the box set, but I understand it's not on the 2 CD version of this album, which is unfortunate. On this single, the B-side of it is an instrumental version of Sunshine Life for Me. So there's quite a nice collection of outtakes. Outtakes for me, I don't often go back to them. It's not like when the anthology came out, I played that over and over and over again because it was so new, having all these new versions of songs. And outtakes are always interesting to hear, but do we go back to them too often? They're outtakes for a reason, so they're not as good as the released version. That's why they're outtakes, but they are interesting to listen to, and this collection of outtakes is no different. Usually I would say that they're outtakes because the version that was used on the album is better. That's why they're an outtake. But in the case of these outtakes, I think there are 2 tracks here on this record that are better than the finished version that went out, and I'll come to that in a bit. Okay, so the tracks appear in the same order as they do on the main album. So Give Me Love, Give Me Peace on Earth is the first track. This is take 18. The master was take 19, so this is almost at the end. Now this sounds like a demo because it's just George on acoustic guitar and singing the words, but it can't. It's definitely not a demo. I would imagine that this outtake, because it is so late in the day, take 18 of 19. I think that this is an outtake that has been created for this box set from take 18, where they've just taken. This would have been a take probably with the whole band, but they've just taken George's acoustic guitar and vocal. The acoustic guitar is perfect. It's probably exactly the same as he played on the final version. The vocal is not quite perfect. It's not as good as the final version, but it's still a good vocal, and this is a nice outtake. So next track is Sue Me, Sue You Blues. This is take 5 of 18. 18 was the master, and it starts off with a little bit of studio chat. I love a bit of studio chat on outtakes. It's really interesting to hear the musicians speaking to each other during the sessions. And in this particular bit of studio chat, George is talking to Jim Keltner, and he's asking him to do a little drum intro into the song because he feels like George is doing his counting and Jim Keltner is coming in too fast. So he wants Jim to start the song, and to help him sort of get the tempo of it, George kind of he puts his hands over the strings on his acoustic guitar to kind of mute them, and then strums the the tempo on these muted strings, sort of 1, 2, 3, 4, and in come the band. As I say, it's a full band version, and it's very different. The slide guitar riff that goes throughout this song, the diddly-diddle, diddly-diddle, is slightly more syncopated in this version. It sort of ends more abruptly. There are 2 slide guitar solos on this that stand alone. One of them remains and made the cut of of the final on the album, made the album. The other one, it wasn't exactly dropped, but it wasn't this solo that he plays here, which is a shame because this solo is nice, but it's kind of replaced on the finished version with Gary Wright's electric piano solo. But we do hear in the remix that there is slide guitar soloing going on underneath Gary Wright's piano solo. So this is this is a really nice outtake. I think again, it's kind of a little bit underdubbed. There's bits missing, but it's still a nice outtake. So the next track is The Light That Has Lighted the World, and this starts off with Nicky Hopkins' piano intro, which sounds absolutely gorgeous just on its own, and then George comes in with his vocal on the first verse. So the first verse is just the two of them, and then the rest of the band come in on verse 2, but this is a much more stripped back version than the one that ended up on the album, and it's lovely. It really is lovely, but it's it's incomplete. There's no guitar solo here because George is just playing acoustic guitar on this, but Nicky Hopkins' piano really is the star of the show of this particular take, and it's really lovely. The next one, Don't Let Me Wait Too Long, this is just George acoustic guitar and vocals, and then about a third of the way through the song, about a minute through the song, the piano comes in. Nicky Hopkins' piano comes in. This isn't particularly that interesting, I don't think, as an outtake, if I'm absolutely honest. The next track, Who Can See It? They had 94 goes at getting this right. No one can accuse George of not being a perfectionist. That's kind of entering into the realms of Not Guilty, another George song that they tried for the White albums, and 102 takes still wasn't enough to get it onto the album. But 94 takes of Who Can See It. We get take 93, so the one before the master, on the Outtakes album here, and there's not really too much difference between that and the final version. Pretty much everything is there. The next track, Living in the Material World, starts off with George counting in as 1, 2, buckle my shoe, which is mildly amusing, not quite as amusing as John Lennon's Ein, Zwei, Hickle Pickle on I Don't Want to Face It, but fairly amusing anyway. This is a much more stripped back version of the song. There's no sax on it. There's no tabla in the Spiritual Sky parts of the song. Ringo's fill after we got Richie on a tour. We must assume that is Ringo playing that, and from that we can tell on this song that Ringo's drums are in the right hand channel, Jim Keltner's is in the left, and we can hear from that Jim Keltner also plays on that little Ringo-esque fill that we hear there. Not the whole thing, but he adds to it a bit of kick drum and a bit of toms as well. So assuming that that is the case throughout the song, Ringo is in the right-hand speaker. During the Spiritual Sky part, there's no tabla keeping time, so Ringo is keeping the time there on the hi-hat, kick drum and snare throughout that part, which is interesting. And Jim Keltner does a really nice little flurry on the cymbals on the just after the bit where George sings How I Pray in that second Spiritual Sky interlude. Really nice outtake, this one. So the next track, The Lord Loves the One Who Loves the Lord, we get a bit of studio chat at the beginning of this. George says, we could have a solo at the end, and then he jokes with Klaus, could be a bass solo or maybe a sax solo. Again, this is a full band version, but there's no sax on this, but the core band are all there. But George not playing electric guitar on this, he's just playing acoustic, and this song is played at a faster tempo than the final version. As I say, there's no guitar solo in this, but the space where the guitar solo should be is now electric piano part, which is played by Nicky Hopkins. The next track, Be Here Now, this is take 8 of 19, and this is a more intimate version than the final version that was released. This one did come out for streaming before the album was released. There it's quite similar to the release version, but there's more sort of little piano twinkles played by Nicky Hopkins throughout this. But this is a really gorgeous version of the song. Really like this one a lot. The next track, Try Some, Buy Some, is not so much an outtake, but an alternative version of the song. There's none of the Spectre production on this, so no strings, no brass on this. And what we hear on this are loads of little extra bits of slide guitar from George, which are really great. And as I said earlier, it's not very often that you hear an outtake that you think is better than the released version. But in this case, it is. I like this much better than the original version. So this is a great outtake to have. The next track is The Day the World Gets Round, and this just sounds like a demo, but it's not, because it's take 22 of 46, so it can't really be a demo. So I'm assuming this is again a created outtake for the box set, where it was take 22 was probably a full band version where one of the members of the band went wrong or something, and they've just taken George's acoustic guitar and vocal to create an outtake for this. It's not unpleasant. It's a very nice intimate George set. As I say, it sounds like a demo, but it's not that exciting either. It's probably not something that I would come back to over and over again. Not nearly as good as the other outtakes that are on this album. The final track from the main album, that is All. This is take 24 of 31. This is a full band version, but we can hear from this take 24 that some of the lyrics that George sings in this version didn't make the final cut of the album. They got changed. Some of the lyrics are missing completely. The bit that I'm going to call the middle eight, but it's that verse that starts times I find it hard to say that verse. There's no singing of that verse at all on this version. That isn't here yet. So when it gets to that part of the song, we just hear the band playing the chords that go underneath that part. The same happens later in the song where the guitar solo would be. Again, that guitar solo is played over the chords for that times I find it hard to say verse, but the guitar solo is not there yet. So it's an incomplete version, but it's a very nice version and interesting to hear what the lyrics were previously. So very nice outtake, that one. The next one is Miss Odell. This is a 2024 remix. It sounds really nice, and what we really notice is how dominant the cowbell is on this, and how nice it actually sounds. But just like everything else in the remix, there is great instrument separation on this, and it just sounds really nice. But on the other hand, this is just a B-side, so we can't get too excited about it. But it's nice to hear this with much more clarity than we've heard before. Now, the next track, Sunshine Life for Me, Sail Away Raymond. If you've got the box set, you will have this on the CD, and you'll have it on this 7-inch single. If you've got the 2 CD version, this isn't there. So this is taken from the sessions for the Ringo album, I think from February 1973, and this is George on lead vocals, and he's playing with the band, not his band from Living in the Material World, but the band Bob Dylan's The Band. They're on this, but also Ringo is on drums on this track, and Klaus Vormann is on double bass, and we've got David Bromberg on banjo and fiddle. And this is a really, really nice version of the song. George's vocals are harmonised by someone from the band. I'm not sure who, but that sounds really nice. On the final version of the song on the Ringo album, we hear George doing that harmony behind Ringo. This is not the same backing track that appears on the Ringo album, but I compared this version against a high-res audio file of this track from the Ringo album, and my word, the difference in sound quality between this and what ended up on the Ringo album is phenomenal. On the Ringo album, it just sounds very dull and a little muted. The Ringo album really needs a remix. It deserves a remix because it's great. But because of how this sounds, and I know that this doesn't have all the sort of the bells and whistles on it. It doesn't have the yee-hawing and all that sort of stuff that Ringo does on the version on his album. But personally, I think this version is better than what is on the Ringo version, just because of the sound quality, the clearness, the clarity of this song compared with how it is on the Ringo album. As I say, that album really needs a remix. I know Ringo is not into remixes and box sets, so just don't tell him. Don't tell him that you're doing a remix. Distract him. Ringo, what's that over there? And while he's looking away, here's your box set. That would be great. Really, as I say, it really could do with a remix. We've already got, a few outtakes to include with it, because we've still got we've already got the John Lennon version of I'm the Greatest, and now we've got this, and we've also got an instrumental version of Sunshine Live for Me that appears only on this 7-inch single that comes with the box set. I think this is just an instrumental of the version that's on the A side. I think they've just taken the vocals off, but we do get a bit of studio chat on the B side of that single. A member of the band, I'm not sure who because I'm not familiar with their speaking voices, is discussing something with Richard Perry, the producer, and George is also talking about the placement of his guitar solo. It's a nice outtake, but it's just the A side, I think, with the vocals taken off. Okay, and that is all the outtakes covered now. So all in all, I thought the selection of extras that we got with this album were very good. It's not very often that I will say this, but I think that two of them, Try Some, Buy Some and Sunshine Live for Me, are actually better than the released versions. That's just my opinion, but that's what I think, and it's very rare for me to think that an outtake is better than the released version of a song, because it doesn't happen very often. I also want to talk about the box set in general and the various iterations of it that I've seen, and I also want to talk about your gripes about this box set and things that you told me about on the unboxing video that you weren't happy about, so I'm going to talk about those as well. But all in all, I thought that the box set was excellent. Really nice presentation, really sturdy box that it came in. Same size as All Things Must Pass. Things inside it were consistent with the All Things Must Pass. But the thing that I really liked about the box set was the fact that you got the vinyl and the CDs in the same package, which the Beatles don't do with their remix box sets that they bring out. Which means that when for someone like me who buys CDs and vinyl, I have to buy two box sets, which means that I pay for the book twice. And I like the fact that the LPs and the CDs are in the same box, so I only have to buy one box. And the book I thought was excellent. The vinyl sounds really nice. If I'm being really critical about it, it's quite noisy in between. Well, my copy is quite noisy between tracks. The dead wax between tracks. I know that's not important, but I still find it quite irritating that that a record straight out of the box has got crackles and pops in between the tracks. I find that annoying, and it's quite a common thing with records that are pressed in GZ in the Czech Republic, as this one is. I thought that the recording notes included with the box set are brilliant. I think this is a really welcome inclusion, and giving really good information about the takes, which musician is on each of the tracks on the mixing desk. George is on track 1, Klaus is on track 8, that sort of thing. Very revealing in so much as that we learn that Phil Spector was present at most of the sessions at Apple Studios, which we didn't really know before, because he's not credited on the original album sleeve, only for co-production of Try Some Buy Some, which makes me think that maybe he wasn't there in a production capacity, but you can tell from those recording notes that he is offering suggestions to various songs, and the musicians are talking to him. So maybe he wasn't actually at the desk, but he was certainly in the studio on pretty much all the days that they were recording. So that is a reveal that recording notes gives. The big reveal that this book gives is it tells us who plays what on every track, which we haven't really known before. We just got a list of the musicians and what they play, but it doesn't tell us who's on each track, and there are some variations. So that was a good reveal. The pictures in it were gorgeous. I think these sort of inner sleeves were a bit surplus to requirements, and I'm going to talk about those when I talk about your gripes in it. But all in all, I thought this was a really, really good box set. I didn't have the 2 CD version. I didn't get that because I didn't need it, because the 2 CDs are here. But I did. I saw unboxing of the 2 LP versions, and that looked really nice as well. These inner sleeves were replaced with much better inner sleeves, I thought, with photos of George and the band on the lawn, the Last Supper pictures. That looked really nice in full colour. Very, very nice with the 2 LP version. I thought that was great. That's all I really want to say about the box set in general. So let's talk about your gripes. What I should have also said when I was talking about the box set was the price. I thought that the price at £130, which is what it was here in the UK, was about right. I don't think it was overpriced. 2 LPs, 2 CDs, a Blu-ray, 1 gorgeous book, another little pamphlet about the recording notes giving great information, the inner sleeves. All in all, I thought it was a really good package at a really good price. I don't think this was overpriced. I think that the 2 LP version was also a good price at around £45, I think it was. And the 2 CD also very good value. I think about £20, was it roughly? About £20. So no complaints on the price of this box. Now, before I get on to your gripes, I'm going to ask you a question, because this is making me scratch my head, because I don't understand the reason. And okay, so this is side 2 of the remixed album. Now, look at the size of the dead wax on that. Okay, that's the new album. Now I'll go back to my original album, the 1973 version, and that is the dead wax on that. It's much, much smaller. Same amount of tracks on it, same size record, 12-inch. So why is there such a great big, great big bit of dead wax. I think the labels are the same size. So that's got me scratching my head. I don't really understand why. But, you know, if anyone knows, please tell me about it down in the comments. Okay, so let's get on with your gripes. Well, the major gripe, the one that most people commented about, was the poor delivery schedule of this, both from georgeharrison.com and from Amazon. You know, people are still waiting for it now, and it was a really poor performance, which I don't understand. I don't understand why they can't get these out on release day. If people are pre-ordering them, they know how many pre-orders they've got to get out. They know where they've got to get them out to. There is really no excuse for it, and it's really, I mean, it was a little bit sporadic, because some people were saying that they got their copy from from Amazon on release date, and some people are still waiting for it, and the same from georgeharrison.com as well. One of my viewers, Sharon Evans, she lives in Texas, and the distribution plant was in Texas. It was literally 2 hours from her house, and she was waiting days and days for it. So absolutely ridiculous. The delivery was a real bugbear for everyone. Another thing that people complain about, and I have to say that I think I've heard less, as I said at the top of the video, I've heard less gripes about this box set than any other since I've been doing YouTube. There's been less about this one than any other that's been released in that 3-year period that I've been doing YouTube. So the other big one was that there was not enough extras on this. You know, why have they only given us one album or CD of extras where there must be loads? And I think that that the answer to that is probably they've probably given us what they consider to be the best outtakes, just like they did on Anthology. They didn't give us loads of versions of the same song, but they gave us the best version. I think that's what they've done here. We don't really, I mean, for me, who's not, doesn't come back to the extras, over and over and over again. One good outtake from each song is enough for me. I'm quite happy with that. I don't need lots more versions that aren't as good, with more things going wrong, but just to expand the box set, and obviously expand the price of the box set as well. So I'm quite happy with, if they're giving me what they consider to be the best outtakes that they've got, then I'm happy with that. I don't need inferior versions of those just to pad out the box set. So that is enough for me. Now, the other gripe that you had was about the track Sunshine Live for Me not being included on the 2 CD version. I don't understand that. Well, I do understand it, and I'll talk about it, but I don't necessarily agree with it. But obviously Sunshine Live for Me was included on CD2 in the box set, but not on CD2 if you bought the 2 CD versions. Now that just seems crazy to me, because it means that they've got to press 2 different versions of the same CD. It can't possibly make sense. The other side of the coin, which was pointed out by my friend Andrew Dixon, and his view was, if you're paying £130 for a box set, then you're entitled to something extra. But you are getting extra things. You're getting the Blu-ray, you're getting the 2 books. So you are getting something extra. Personally, I would like to see all the music released on all the formats. Not if you just buy the one LP or the 1 CD version, but if you're buying the 2 CD versions, then put all the extras on it, because it doesn't cost any more to do that. And I don't really believe that any music should be exclusive to those that can afford it. So you know, if you're buying the 2 CD version, you should have all the music on it, really, I think. So that is my view, but I do understand the other view that, you know, if you're paying a lot of money for the box set, you should get something extra, but you are getting something extra, but just not, you know, not necessarily musically. Okay, so that is that. Now, so another quibble that came up about this box set, or the records in this box set, and I totally blame Andrew from Parlogram for this, because he was the first one to bring it up, and others have latched onto it, is that the polyline sleeve that comes, the records come in the box set, and it's the same in the LP set, don't fit inside the provided inner sleeves, which I think are surplus to requirements anyway, because, you know, if you've got it in a polyline sleeve, why would you want it in a coarse, hard, like, inner sleeve? But he pointed out that this doesn't fit into that, and if you ram it in, you can't get your box closed. And the reason why that this doesn't fit into that is because it's not supposed to. You've got a choice. You can either keep your record in your polyline sleeve, which most people with a sensible head will do, but some people like to take their records out of an inner sleeve. You know, we've had you know, these sort of hard inner sleeves in records for decades. I had loads of records that came in a hard inner sleeve like this, but I bought a load of these, which are, you know, polyline sleeves for those records. So now my records sit inside the, you know, the inner sleeve, inside a, you know, a polyline sleeve, because, you know, I don't want my records to, you know, get, you know, scratched or have loads of surface noise and stuff like that. So, you know, you should always keep your records in a polyline sleeve. So they provide a polyline sleeve, so why not use it? But for those people that do like to take their records out of a proper inner sleeve, you know, you can just drop the record inside there. I'm not going to do it, because why would I? I don't want my nice new record going inside you know, a coarse hard sleeve like that. So that was a bit of a minor quibble. I don't think it is even a legitimate quibble, to be honest. You know, if you want to put your record into the inner sleeve, then do it, but I wouldn't recommend it. You know, for me personally, if I get a polyline sleeve with a record, that's where they stay. I don't need to put it in you know, an inner sleeve as well. So that was my in-depth review of the Living in the Material World box set. I must apologise for the length of this video. It has gone on over an hour, which is longer than I thought it would. But on the other hand, this is a major solo Beatles release, and it kind of deserves to be spoken about in depth, and all aspects of it discussed. So that is what I've done. You know, I could have done a much shorter video and said, yeah, the remix was really nice, the outtakes are really nice, and be done with it. But you know, that's not me really, and I do think this box set deserves to be spoken about in depth. So if you've got your Living in the Material World in whatever iteration you ordered, please tell me what you think about it down in the comments. You know, I'll read all your comments. Love to read all your comments, and I will respond to all your comments. Now, if this video is an hour long, imagine how long it took me to make it. If the finished product is an hour long, so I would ask you to just do me a very quick favour and just take 1 second of your life and give this video a thumbs up, give it a like, because it really does help the video get out there to more people, and helps the channel immensely. If you just stumbled across this video by accident and you're not subscribing, you like what you see, please consider subscribing. And if you've made it to this point in the video, an hour down the line, then, well, thank you very much and well done. You've obviously got great staying power, so yeah, we'd love to have you on board. But you will have also noticed, or you may have noticed, that you haven't seen any adverts during this last hour, you know, for dog food or holidays or, you know, foot spas or whatever it might be, you've been able to watch the video from start to finish without any of those silly interruptions. So that's another good reason to subscribe to the channel. Okay, that is it. Thanks very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I'll see you all very soon. Bye bye.